Hi.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to our very last Laini Taylor Readalong live show.
That's so sad.
It is
That's
very
actually
sad.
kind of wild.
Yeah.
Like, think.
Very crazy, but we are going to be talking, about Muse of Nightmares. So there might be some spoilers in case you haven't read it and want to, just be warned. But we'll go ahead and do some intros and, let us know your rating, how your reading experience went. Whatever you want to share.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Dana. You can find me on YouTube at Dana Ella, Instagram at Dana Ella Reads. This is one that I feel like I am desperately in need for the conversation to be able to fully decide where I'm gonna land on this. I'm gonna start at a 3.5, but it could go up, it could go down. I think I just have to talk about it a little more because I feel like surface level thoughts are a lot happened and nothing happened kind of all at the same time. But yeah, I think one of the things that kind of threw me off was like I felt like the characters' responses to what was actually at stake did not match what was actually at stake. Like, I was like, wait, we gotta be dialed in a little more, friends. But I'm interested to talk about it and kind of like hear another perspective from it to kind of see to work it out in my head. Because it's a very wordy style of writing. And so sometimes you can get lost in there a little bit. At least I can. So yeah. But I just can't believe that we're at the end of this. Like, what a journey we've been on. And we started in September.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Yeah. So half a year we're here.
Crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Time flies. Hi everyone, I'm Kehlani from Kehlani Simple Me on Instagram and YouTube. I have a confession. I didn't finish. I was racing to the finish, and unfortunately I just didn't time manage properly, and then I had a meltdown to deal with. So I have 5 minutes left of the audiobook. So as of right now, I'm sitting at a 3. I don't think I liked this one as much as the first book in the series, nor as much as all the rest of the stuff that we've read from her. But I could be convinced by the ending when I finish it. Also, I could be convinced by the conversation to go up or down. But yeah.
Do you plan on finishing it?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna finish it out.
Cool.
Hi, guys. I'm Lindsay from She Is Booked and Busy on YouTube and Instagram. For anyone who didn't tune in to last live where we discussed the first book, I gave the first book a 2-star, and throughout our discussion I think I was really hoping to jump on and listen and have it raise my star rating, but it didn't. I think it just further solidified a 2-star for me, and I would like to say I gave this one my best effort, but I DNF'd at 20%. I just couldn't do it. And I'm going to be honest with you. If we talk about the 20% that I did read, it was on track to being a 1.5 to a 2-star. I don't think that first 20% was necessarily worse than my feelings about the first book. But for me, I had so many other projects and things going on that why would I continue reading something for it to be a 2-star read at the end? So for me, it was a confident did not finish. Sorry to be about it, but I love you all still, and I'm really sad this is over.
I know it is sad.
No worries. We wouldn't want you to have to suffer, through.
They were so, and everyone who's watching, they were so supportive because we have a group chat behind the scenes where we discuss, and what was it, a week and a half ago, something like that, I jumped on the message and I was like, guys, I'm fighting the urge to DNF so bad. And they were literally like, don't read it if you don't like it. That's pointless. So everyone was really supportive, but I just could not do it. Physically could not do it.
We'll still love you.
Yeah, still love. Still love.
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Karina from She Do the Words here on YouTube and Instagram. I also just finished this like barely, so I don't know what I think. I'm feeling like a 3.5, or it could be a 4. I don't know, because like the themes in here, I know that's kind of a shock. I just really appreciate her ability to like tell a story and like weave really important like topics into her books in the ways that she does.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just like obviously. What did I give the first one? 4. So this might be like a 3.75, like because I really did not enjoy it as much as the first one.
Yeah.
So, but I do appreciate her storytelling abilities.
Yeah.
I like that you said though the themes, because like there's a lot of heavy things in these books. Like this duology dealt with, I think, like wow.
Heavy.
Wow.
Do have some friends here with us. Hey, Jasmine. Listen, I ain't read this, but here for moral support to close this read along.
That's love.
I didn't either.
Appreciate you. Hey, Bryce. Thanks for the intro to Laini, because even though the series wasn't for me, I love the first one.
Yes.
Good.
That's why it was so shocking that I couldn't get into it, because like Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and I am typically not a YA person, but Daughter of Smoke and Bone, I was good for me, right? And then this I just couldn't connect to. That's shocking. I'm with you, Liz.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Next read along.
Oh.
We haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
But I'm not opposed.
Not a person.
I'm not opposed.
Yeah.
Oh, stay tuned.
Yeah, there we go. Sneak peek.
Bryce, you good idea haver, you.
Okay, so I do have some questions. I know we haven't all finished it, so we probably won't be here for too long. But okay, I'm curious about this question. So Emma is Muse of Nightmares. How does Muse of Nightmares explore the concept of gods and their influence on the world, particularly with escapists and the consequences of their actions? I also feel like, did he also like fall off the story like at a certain point? Because he never came back.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure I.
No. Yeah, at least that's what I remember as well. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember who that is, Lindsay?
No, but the first part, I like get where you're going, but yes, this, no clue. No.
Essentially, he was the one that kind of went and picked the people up, the citizens of Weep, and brought them to the gods for all the nefarious things that were taking place.
Okay.
And then in the very beginning of the book, where we met those two sisters, he was the one that kind of like separated them and then forced one of them to take part in a lot of these like terrible things.
Yes, I should grab my book.
So, but I think this is a really good question though, about like, at least in this world, like how it was the ripple effect. Like everything that the gods did had a lasting effect on obviously the people in like the Citadel, right? Or where they were all at, but then everybody in Weep. And just like, honestly, can we just say like how tragic it is to be a citizen of Weep, because I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And just to drop that little nugget in there, and obviously it would change the whole story. There would be no story, but like I would have just left Weep. If I knew that at a certain age I was beam me up, Scotty, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. Me and my family are gone. For the sake of the story, though.
Yeah.
I think it's like, just so I think again, like how we said, like the themes with this are heavy, and like just how the greed and the lack of empathy for like anybody and how it affected an entire community.
Yeah.
Like for the people that got taken, obviously what they endured, the people who were left waiting and feeling helpless and defenseless, like it's just And Skathis, you would catch these hands on sight. There's not a single solitary thing he could have ever said to keep me from going for his neck.
Molly Whoppin.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
so crazy how
Yeah.
different perspectives you see from the descendants of Skathis as well. Because it's like you're seeing two very different sides of the spectrum fighting for two very different things,
Yep.
but like living in the same, not in the same reality, but like living in the same consequences of that reality that he built. So I thought that was really interesting as well.
Yeah.
For me, I think I obviously didn't get very far in this one, but just like harkening back to like the general theme, I thought it was very interesting, the whole presenting the gods as evildoers and good doers. You don't often see that. I mean, to be completely honest with you, you really don't see that. This is like almost like biblical theming, and you don't often see that. But it was interesting between like the archangels and the angels and then the gods. I thought it was an interesting concept you don't often see. But that's basically in the very little that I read what I took out of it.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Bryce, yes.
They had a lot to move about, to be honest.
Yeah. This book really gave me like some crazy like images in my head, like, you know, trying to like picture some of the scenes that were happening.
Yeah.
It's just very, very cool.
Or even just like the despair of like having like this big thing
Yeah.
looming over you of all the time is just like a crazy thing to like wrap your head around, like trying to like visualize like how much it encompassed of like their everyday lives.
Yeah.
And even with like how you said like just like looming like over you, how like the people of Weep, like they took advantage of even like the small things and the small moments that we saw with like Eurofane, and as I can't remember her name. I know, yes. You know, just like with them kind of being like, oh, we're getting married before this happens, and we're gonna be able to spend some time together before this happens. And like I think it just like it made them cherish like every moment that they had, you know.
Yeah.
Weep is taking me out for some reason. Well, that's where they live. Are you crying?
Exactly. Are you weeping, Bryce?
Yeah, let's
I am. I weeped through most of the 20%.
Yeah, okay. Well, not a bad thing because it really, okay, since we're talking about such sad things, that's where my mind is going. The amount of like trauma that both, Minya and Nova, and I mean all the characters, Sarai, like, you know, everyone that lives in this world really had to deal with.
Yeah.
And it was just very sad. Like I got teary quite a few times.
The burden that Minya carries, and like when Sarai went into her dream and to see that like Minya lives that on a loop.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, like that would make me terrible as well.
Yeah,
like when it's like we didn't see her, we never saw her. Like the comment that stuck out to me was in the story where they said we've never seen her sleep. Would you sleep either? If every time you went to sleep, you lived
like that
absolutely horrific. Yeah, like my God. And then it's like, I feel like there was no way for her to, like, okay, so like the other God spawn, right? Like, obviously, like they didn't love Errolfane, but they didn't have like this like absolute like the vengeance wasn't at the level of Minya, right? And like, but it's like you can understand somewhat that she was never able to even remove a little bit from that and like somehow try to move on, because every time she closed her eyes, She went right back to that. And like the idea of like somebody going through trauma and then living it on a loop, that was
It's rough.
Or even to hear her talk about like how she didn't realize how much she was carrying until it was back on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Like feeling all of that anger and grief and pain, and like it was all just a part of her. She just lived it. And then when she had the brief respite, she was like, oh, like this is actually way more than I ever anticipated, knowing that I was pouring myself into, because that was, and to find out that was the reason why she never aged.
Yeah.
Like she really was just holding on to so much. And it's like when you think about it in that reality, in that construct, it's like, how do you not become hell-bent on revenge?
Yeah. I love Minnie now.
Yeah, and that's like her driving force.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
And like how you were saying, Kehlani, how like that trauma and like really intense PTSD like didn't age her, like that also kind of correlates to how our bodies handle like very stressful situations. Like it takes a physical toll on us.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to see. And I was laughing at the end. I don't want to spoil it, but like there was like a tooth moment.
I was just thinking that.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
I won't say what happened, but
yeah, that one.
I'll
That
keep an ear out.
Yeah, that one was emo, but for like a good emo.
yeah.
You know, but like definitely it was kind of just like, oh,
Okay.
I'm a fan of her crazy self, you know?
Yeah, and this one we really do like get to know more about Minya and like what she literally lives through, even when she sleeps, but she doesn't sleep, you know?
Yeah.
Or even like learning the details behind the Ellens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and like
that was
why like why they were there and what they meant to her, and the anger behind the decision to keep them there was just like very visceral. Like I can't imagine for 15 years holding that.
Did you get to the part where we learn Minya's side of the Lindas? Is that
Minya's role in all of it? Yeah.
Yeah. That was so sad. I could cry actually if I think about it too hard. But back to that trauma. How does Muse of Nightmares portray the lasting effects on trauma on the characters, and how did their experiences shape their motivations? I feel like we kind of talked about it, but if you have like any specific instances you want to touch on for any specific character.
I mean, I know we've talked about Minya, right? And like obviously how like what she experienced is very different than what everybody else, all the other Godspawn, because they were like babies. Like she was old enough to obviously help, like save, but remember, whereas they don't carry those like memories. Like they've been told this happened, right? But like they don't have the memories to cling to of like how horrific that was. And then it's like how lonely she probably felt. Like I think a lot of times too, when you go through a traumatic experience, like there's a lot of like our minds tell us a lot of times that we are alone and nobody else will ever understand. And like that, but and then also like Nova, where it was like she was going scorched earth, like and how it talked about like the physical like restraint it took for her to keep her denial there, because she knew, like she already knew her sister was gone, you know? And like it's just trauma. I feel like this was like a book telling people like it's okay to seek therapy, you know, like it was like you need help and that's okay, because like traumatic things don't have to like keep you in a loop. You don't have to stay in that. And like I think that was their motivations, I think, were very much informed by feeling so alone, because it's like Nova had that intense feeling of being by herself. Minya had an intense feeling of being by herself, and how like it was her job to take care of them. And even when she came back after, you know, her little sleepy time was gone, you know, and so I think it's Sarai that said like how she was surprised that after everything, Minya's focus was still to protect her family. Like, oh,
Guys, I'm sorry. I have to pop off for 1 second. I'll be back in like 15 minutes.
Okay.
no worries.
I also think it's interesting that you say like that they thought of themselves as alone in their circumstances, but I also think that could be said the same for Errolfane, because that's the reason why he was like so far removed from his marriage was because he just felt like nobody could understand the experiences that he went through, and like truly, not very many people can. Like nobody experienced exactly what happened that day, but it's just like so crazy that that what you were talking about, that particular like idea that like they all felt alone and that's how they moved through the world was like so like just evenly dispersed with almost all of the like higher up characters, the ones that were very well talked about. Like they all just felt like so like isolated in their circumstances.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to go over a few of these comments because I haven't yet. Hi, Christina.
Hi.
She said, "Pot to hydrate." Oh, let me.
I got a smoothie.
Anything but water.
Hmm?
Did you say you have a smoothie?
I had tropical smoothie, so
Yes, tell us what you're snacking on. Check your laundry, take your meds, stretch, show some love to the like button. Make sure you sub and ring the bell. So hopefully you know you, Christina, or the reminder, because we always need that. On the inside, Bryce is crying. Oh, nothing new then. Relatable.
very relatable. You did that.
Yeah.
Just an average Saturday evening.
Yep.
That sounds about right. See. Girls were tight on finishing this yesterday, and now look at you going into the deep depths. We're grabbing scraps where we can, Liz. This one really is. I know because we had like a time crunch. Like personally, I had to kind of speed through it, but this is another. I wouldn't mind rereading both books to like really immerse myself in the story. I don't know.
So get more detail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
I think there would be an even higher rating on a reread. I think like being able to slow it down even more and really take in, because it's heavy. Like I know everybody when I when we talked about doing Laini Taylor and everything, like I didn't know, we really didn't know anything about this duology, but I never really heard people say how traumatic and like heavy it was. Everybody was like, it's so lyrical. Like, but like, and it is. Yeah, and it is, but there's so much grief and sadness in there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, we have Bessie here.
Hey.
Some loves. But yeah, no one talks about like what to really expect with the story and like that kind of content. But interesting. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so we haven't talked about like the characters yet, so let's dissect our main two. In what ways did Laszlo and Sarai's characters change as they grappled with their new realities as a ghost and a god? Which is interesting. Oh my gosh. It's interesting because I would forget that Sarai is a ghost because of the things.
Wasn't very ghostly.
Occurred.
Yeah. Honestly. They were a little bit of a letdown to me in the story. I far more enjoyed like the other characters and kind of like what was happening with them. But Laszlo and Sarai, I think because like you said, you could almost forget that she was a ghost. And also just kind of like he was just diddy bopping with his metal. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like I feel like their characters, I don't know. I feel like normally, you know, in a book, main characters have like huge like story arcs and like very like massive things that they go through. And I think just like for them, it was just like learning how to use their gifts differently, maybe, or to help somebody. But I feel like them as characters, I feel like there was, I don't know if I missed it, you know, but like I feel like there wasn't like much change. Like when you think of like, I know we're gonna keep talking about her, but my girl Minya, like big change happened in her. And like I just feel like with Lasso and Sarai, I don't know, I feel like they stayed very stagnant. I know they're not stagnant, but they felt for a large portion of it just very much the same characters as book one.
I agree.
And maybe I was being a hater, but
Because I feel like their mindsets never changed.
yeah.
Like the barriers between like dream and waking felt like the same barriers that they had between like a ghost and God. Like they didn't really, nothing really changed for them. Their circumstances changed in our eyes, but like they, like you said at the very beginning, the way that the characters were responding to the stakes like didn't match the stakes. And I feel like that was they were the reason. Like they just didn't treat it like it was a big thing. Like you're dead. Hello. You're a ghost and you're being controlled and you don't have any care in the world other than oh, she made me bite your lip. Okay. Like
please don't get me on
like,
that. Yeah.
I
think
they are the reason. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, just saying they are the reason that I was like that I felt so strongly that like the characters were not responding in the way that I feel like I expected them to. Obviously, I'm not the author, right? But like there were obviously like very big things that were taking place and very high stakes. Like things were hanging in the balance and like a lot of unknowns. And I feel like there was way too much time spent on their characters worrying about the hanky panky. Like it just was too much. And I think it would have been fine with like maybe a couple of instances of just like, hey, we got to live in the moment. Like, okay. But I just feel like every moment was not the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, I think that Laini Taylor might have a thing with like keeping her characters on the edge, on the precipice of doing the deed, because the same thing that she did with Daughter Smoke and Bone. The kiss. Oh, I can't wait for a cake at the end. And it's like, girl, just let them do it so we can get past the lust phase and then we can get to the dire things that actually need to happen.
She said, YA.
Yeah, I think that Laszlo and Sarai kind of took like a back seat, like you guys said, to like the other characters. So like they switched places with Ruby and Beryl because you remember the first book, they were just like acted like teenagers.
Yeah.
And this book, Laszlo and Sarai kind of took on that role with Minya kind of in the forefront of the story. But yeah, I definitely think it was really sweet, the instances of Laszlo, like Sarai will not be here if we don't help her, kind of like towards the ending. Like I did love seeing him staying up for his girl.
Yeah.
But I do feel like, there wasn't as much growth as you would expect given at least Laszlo's like newfound reality. But that's also, I feel like, at the same time, an ode to like who he is as a person and as an individual because of how like, he's not one to like show, like he's very humble and very demure, for lack of a better word that comes to mind. But that's just could also be like a good thing, I think, in a way.
Yeah. I think I also low-key was like waiting for him to almost have maybe like a little fangirl moment of like he'd spent his whole life not knowing why he had a draw to weep, right? And like, being the little librarian man and like looking up all this information and then like how he kind of had that moment of like actually making it to weep, in book one, being like, whoa, I don't know. I kind of thought there would be more in this book because I feel like at the end of book one, he didn't have time to like take in what that he is a god, right? Like, but I thought for sure at least there would be like a moment in book 2 where it was kind of like, what an absolute and utter change to life, and like where do I fit in? Because I feel like so much of this story still felt a little like untold.
Yeah.
With certain aspects. Obviously you're not going to know everything, and that is what it is, like leave a little to the imagination. But I think like you said, he is a very humble character, and he never comes across as like wanting to make the story like, you know, put the shine on him. But I thought like maybe in like a little private moment with him and Sarai, maybe he'd have like a little freak out moment of like, oh my god, you know.
I just felt like so much of this book was spent on things that didn't matter. When like you have like a 570-page book, like that, there was space for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think parts could have been taken out to really allow us to care the whole time, you know?
Yeah. Which is funny because I think that's kind of what was said about the other series. Like at the end of just being like, you could have split it into 2, or you should have taken out certain things and expanded on others. So it's like either split it into and expand, or take out and then, you know. So
yeah. And I know I said this, like I feel like maybe at least for the 2 series, right?
Yeah.
Personally, it seems like she's a strong series starter, and like the ending just lacks in certain different ways.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but I mean, if she's putting anything else out, I'm still gonna read it.
Yeah. Oh, I could, because like you said, like that series start hooks us. Like we're just like, wow, I'm in. You know.
I think the great thing about her stories is she has a very different way of like thinking about worlds and magic and putting together a really great premise that has a lot of promise. It just seems that she doesn't do very well at wrapping things up with all of the things that she's thrown into the first, you know, book that made it so special and cool and different. Like she just doesn't wrap things up as well as she should.
Yeah. It's like the editor either needs to cut her down, like not cut her down, but like cut the story, shave a little off the story, or her agent needs to negotiate a longer book deal, like more money. Because it's like she has so much to tell, and it's almost like she just runs out of time.
Yeah.
And so and yeah, like runs out of time, but not willing to let go of certain things. Where I think like the story would have really flourished letting go of certain things, or just making more books.
Yeah.
Because she has it in her. Like you said, like the strong start tells us like, you know how to create a world that gives us like such absolute like intrigue, like not feeling just like, okay, whatever, this is the same thing I've read before. Like it's so unique. It's like there's a lot of promise.
Yeah, I agree. I think it really could have benefited from a 3rd book, but it also could have allowed her to throw in even more nonsense.
Yeah.
Can like we trust the first series?
Yeah.
And okay, the POV switches like mid-chapter. I had to be, that was very, I don't remember that happening in Strange, but I could be wrong. But that was just throwing me. I had to like rewind a lot.
It was abrasive.
I feel like she did that in the last couple books of Smoke and Bone too. And I remember we talked about it, like it's jarring. And like she did the same thing in this book that she did in the last book of Daughter of Smoke and Bone, threw us into 2 perspectives that we've never heard of before. Yeah. And it's like I pop in and I'm like, where am I? I'm confused.
Yeah. Like I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think the POV changes in this one were more intense to me than the first one. Like than Strange. Like it was but again, it's like I feel like she low-key formulaic with these last books in a series. Like she said, POV who's?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Listen, I don't want to bring this book up, but you know what it reminded me of?
Yeah. 100,000%.
Yeah.
Because that was Whiplash, and this was also Whiplash. And again, where everything is supposed to be so high stakes. Like I need to be able to lock in, and it's like so much and so little is happening at the same time, but I couldn't keep it straight if you paid me $1 million because of the POV change.
Yeah. Liz said, I do like that her fantasy from the first series felt different from some of the stuff I've been reading, which are very similar.
Mm.
And that, like Kaylani said, like she does really bring very whimsical, different stories to the
Yeah.
table. And I love that. I love it. And like how I said, the imagery that I would get through this book, I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But like in a good way. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like off-putting. Well, for personally, I just love how like her imagination is just great.
Unmatched.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think,
Yeah.
like you said, the being able to come up with like being able to see things in your head from is like a pro to her writing about like, you know how we're like, okay, she's very wordy, and she is, but there's pros and cons to everything, you know, and like one of the pros though to being very wordy in this duology is that like you really had a chance to create like scenes in your head.
Mhm. Yeah. I agree. This is so off topic, but are you caught up on the? Oh my goodness. Okay.
No worries.
Try and find another question. Okay. Do you think it's always necessary to kill monsters, or is it possible to save them?
What a good question. Because I feel like that is very much Minya, Aerofane, and Nova. Like those three people that we're really like looking at heavy in this book is like, can you save them? And I think like it's really beautiful that we did get to in all the instances.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you can't always like Skathis, whatever his name is, like I said, on site.
Yeah.
There's no redeeming you. There is none. But like to many, Minya was a monster. Nova was a monster to some. Aerofane definitely was a monster to some. But like, oh, well, I love this question.
But
Like,
even Sarai. Sorry.
yeah. No, Sarai, yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even when she said too, like, to bring her, like, using her in this context of where she said, like how her gift to her power had changed, where it went from sending the moths out to having to actually physically touch them, and how she said, like, I don't know if I would have actually been able to terrorize people the way that I did if I had to stand there and physically touch them and feel their pulse, like go crazy, and like feel their physical, like, yeah. But I think it's not always necessary to kill monsters. Some, a lot, yeah, Skathis, but not always necessary. And I think it's cool that we got to see the redemptive qualities in some in many characters, because I think too sometimes in fantasy, like you don't always get, I mean, you do sometimes, right? You do get those like redemptive moments where you're just like, ah, dang it. But you have some that are like you're gonna hate for forever. And I love that, like, I think it's kind of cool that she kind of went, usually you only have maybe one that's redemptive, the rest are she kind of on its head and gave you more of the like, well, this is what happened and this is why you still hate them,
Yeah.
Or even the idea that even good people can do monstrous things.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that was a really big theme over the last 2 books. Is like even good people can do things that you might consider monstrous or could make them a monster, but like it doesn't always mean that their intentions or the things that the reason that they're doing it comes from like ill intent. It's just like that's the only way they know how to live or know how to survive.
Yeah.
Know how to make it through what they're going through. So I just think it's interesting when you think about it in like a grand scheme of her work. Like that's very, very prevalent. Like are all monstrous acts done by monstrous people?
Mm.
I think it kind of goes to show, like, obviously everyone kind of has different facets. Well, everyone has different facets to them as like a human and individual. And it's interesting to see like what someone would deem like evil,
Yeah.
what had caused them to do those acts?
Yeah.
Oh, which brings me to the next question. Are any of the characters truly evil, or are they driven by complex circumstances? I feel like we kind of touched on it, but
My bad. My bad.
no.
Can I just say, though, these complex circumstances, one thing that I will be ready to fight somebody for truly is the fact that when the people of Weep, like, because I feel like in the beginning of the story, when it was told, it made it seem low key like Errol Fane was the sole thing that made like all these God spawn be yeeted, right? Like, and that all of this, when there was a moment where they said like, oh, we have this opportunity. Someone's like, get Errol Fane. He should have the honors. Y'all put this on my man, and then he's lived in turmoil since. Who voted Errol Fane to be the one to have to do that?
Mm.
And if that's what y'all, my stutter came out hard. If that's what you wanted, y'all should did it together. Because why did they put that all on his shoulders?
Mm.
Bear the burden. And how I think Karina, you had said that like one of you guys said, but like how it stopped him from having his marriage. Like it was like that was their moment of victory, and he lived as if he was defeated.
Yeah.
Since then, you know. But when I heard that, when it was like, oh, get Errol Fane, he should have the honors, I said, oh, you sick people.
Yeah.
That really peed me off.
Sick.
Yeah.
I think in the case of whatever his name was, Scarab or Scarop or what is his name?
Scathis?
Sure. Whatever his name was.
Scarab.
That made me think of the Mummy. Like
I don't know how that came into my head. I don't know what that was, but he was actually evil. The rest of the characters, I feel like they were driven by evil circumstances, complex circumstances. But that guy, trash.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, like, it's crazy when I think we were in Nova or her sister's like POV and hearing. It must have been the sister because she was like, yeah, anytime a god spawn was made that threatened his power, like she did, like he's like, bye. Like,
yeah,
that is just crazy.
Yeah. Scathis, and then Sarai's mom, and the one that had Errol Fane's
Isicle.
Errol Fane's wife. Yeah. Like those ones, truly evil. There is no redemption to them. But yeah, like when we had that like Korra POV of like what she had to do when the god spawn threatened the god, like and then when she said like, and then how she felt guilt too, like of like, I sent you that letter and I knew you would never stop, and like I should have never sent that to Nova, and then just saying like what the people of Weep did, we deserved. Like they got us on it, which I feel like brings another layer of just complexity to the story of just being like Errol Fane felt so guilty since for it, but then you're having somebody saying like, nah, you did what you were supposed to do. Like
it's just, she really allowed us to kind of see two sides of like, you know, this one conflict and how each side had their difficult decisions to make for the good of like their people and like what they thought was right. Which, I mean, it's easy to skew towards one side, you know, but like in Korra's case, right, is her sister Nova's sister. She didn't have a choice because she was basically under Scathis's thumb and had to do what he made her, you know?
Yeah.
So that was tough. Let me see.
I'm gonna be popping on and off, guys. I'm sorry.
No worries. You got stuff to real things.
Yeah.
To take care of.
said, I love drawing POV switches. I want a book to drag me through the depths. In what? Interesting.
Yeah.
I said I can say them. I don't know if that was to escape us or what, but okay. I don't know if we want to try to answer this one, but I thought this was an interesting question. How does the dream world function as a narrative device, revealing character motivations and reflecting the inner turmoil of the characters? Which was interesting because I felt like it was hard to tell when we were in dream world because it just like fluidly like fluctuated throughout the story, especially like because I was like listening to it, so it took me a second to catch on to what was actually happening.
Now, in Muse of Nightmares, is this the same dream world as in Strange the Dreamer, where they met up in their dreams?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like a new.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so I can't speak much for Muse of Nightmares, but I felt as though you got the true intentions of characters in their dreams, as opposed to what they were saying in reality.
Which I think is especially the case for Minya. I feel like that was like the revelation that we needed to kind of understand Minya's perspective. Because before it was just like, oh, this girl is just bat crazy.
Yeah.
She's on her rocker and it's gone, you know? So I think that just really gave us another perspective to see the inner workings of how she got to where she is, which I thought was really cool. I feel like we didn't really get to experience a lot of other dreams, did we, or did I miss them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing was saved by Sarai entering Nova's dream.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, and how she like learned from what went wrong when she entered Minya's dream, of like how she like wasn't able to do what she set out to do, but yeah, I think it definitely is a narrative device because I think, like, you know, like Kaylani said, like without having Minya's dream state, we would just have really thought she was just an unhinged, hateful person. And we would have still known she went through some things, but we wouldn't have known the way that she carried it. And like, and just like with Nova, just knowing that like she was holding on to every ounce of being Delulu as she could. Like, you know, we always talk about like Delulu, like she was the epitome of Delulu, and like, but in such a tragic and sad way where it's like she knew. And like how when those people, those two that were with her were just kind of like, listen, like Cora's gone. And then the next time we're in that area, it's like, and they're gone. It's like, oh my God. Like, you know? But yeah, I think it was like, I wish we would have gotten a little more of it throughout the story, with her being in dreams a little more. But I understand that like she had to learn how to even get that power back, how she had to change. So I know that's like, I understand why we couldn't be in dreams as much as the first one, but these dreams were, whereas I feel like the first dreams were more so just like, selfish things, like, you know, like her and Flo just being able to hang out, you know, and these ones were so important to just like the sake of humanity and like survival,
changing the turn of the future. I was trying to find what Laszlo says to her, to Minya, and then she uses that knowledge for Nova's dream. Do you remember what, like, how he worded that? I thought I highlighted it, so I'm trying to look.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember. I know that she did mention something to Nova about like making this a safe space for her, essentially. Like,
yeah, dang.
Man, but I know what you're talking about, but I don't have like the wording, and I was just listening, so I don't even have to highlight it.
I highlighted quite a bit, but nothing is sticking out to me. But I'm like seeing all the like sad stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
And I do
Yeah.
think. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just like looking through my highlights and just commiserating all over again.
Oh no. One thing I do want to say about the writing is that like how how sometimes we've read books, right, where like we kind of just say like it almost felt like trauma for trauma's sake and almost like shock value, whereas like I feel like she wrote about so much trauma and it never once felt like trauma for trauma's sake or like overly like she chose to not like give very detailed instances, but you knew what was happening. And like, yeah, I just a nod to her on the writing, because when you were looking and you saw like all the sad stuff, it was like because she really like she had a lot in there.
There was a part where Errol Fane's mom, Suhalia,
Yeah.
yeah. There was a moment where she was I think she brought the bread for the like just because they're just kids, essentially they were just kids that didn't have anyone looking out for them, so she wanted to step up and like do that. I could cry.
She made me wildly emo.
Yeah, and it's just
It was Go ahead. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
I'm just like, sorry. I feel like there's so much that we could really talk about with this book, but it's just like it's too much at the same time.
I beg of Laini Taylor. I beg. Just a novella in Errol Fane's mom's POV. Just a novella. I would eat that up, because when she talked about like wanting to find the other kids because she had a son, like she has Errol Fane, but Errol Fane's got a brother. Yeah. And like just wants to find him and just hoping that they track these kids. Like Errol Fane, how like everybody's gonna go search, and like she's just hoping that they find a 40-year-old boy that can somehow be her baby, and like how her house slid off the side of the cliff, and she was just like, "I'll live here with them." And Errol Fane's like, "We can build you a house. What's the bother? These kids need a mother." Ugh. I'm throwing up from emotion. That almost took me out. And how she said she never got that reaction to her her pastries and her cake, and like her just baking for them, because they talk so much about how their food is just sustenance. There is no pleasure. There is no and how she was bringing in that like love into it and bringing them so many different things, and how they were just kids getting to experience these things for the first time, and how it's like, because I think it's almost like a nod back to book 1, where Errol Fane was like, "Laszlo, you're gonna go stay with my mom," and Laszlo's like, "You're not staying here," and he said, "Oh, I can't," because when he's in Weep, Sarai attacks his mind, right? So he's like, "I'll stay outside of Weep," but like how his mom just had nobody, like Errol Fane like left, and she lost both of her sons, and like and just how these kids are just like healing her while she heals them, and one pastry at a time, just out
with actual sugar in it.
Yeah. Wow.
So anytime Laini Taylor wants to give us that novella, I'm reading it.
If she makes it like a little comic situation, like puppets,
that would be her and Minya.
Wow.
I couldn't.
Wow. Okay. What else? Okay, so now that we've read, we've completed the series.
Yes.
Do you have like a favorite or least favorite scene that comes to mind in either book? I'm gonna have to think one. I didn't even prepare.
What a good question that I'm not prepared to answer, but what a good question.
Can I say something really generic?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but for me, when I think back on our whole reading journal of everything Laini Taylor, something about reading about Laszlo in the library. I have like really cozy, fond feelings of. I liked the imagery of him climbing up the ladder and looking out that window and seeing the white bird fly by. That for me, I think was like my happiest, coziest feelings while reading the book. I also really enjoyed the graphic novel, which was cool.
I think my favorite scene out of all of the books that we read was actually the moths, like the Shaw moths and Daughter of Smoke and Bone.
Oh,
He made for her.
the
That was
ball.
my favorite scenes for sure.
Sorry, my furnace guy.
Oh, no worries. Do you have one, Karina?
I wasn't even thinking about the first series. I was just wanting the duology.
Oh, I thought you meant all of them as a whole. I'm so sorry. Are you talking about everything?
Yeah. Do you have one that you want to share for like the duology?
Yes.
I can think of something for the other series.
For the duology, my favorite scene was when Sarai realizes that Laszlo's nose wasn't broken in like a tussle or a fight or out of anger, but because it was from a book, and like her entire perspective of him changed to like brute of a man to like this person that loves stories. That was one of my favorite scenes.
That's so good. And it came back around.
Yeah.
Which so sweet. I think a standout moment in this book specifically for me was Sparrow. Her heal, like discovering that she can heal.
Yeah.
Even with her ability to like with plants, like a plant affinity.
Like grow. Yeah.
And I was like, what is happening? That was I like that. Because I was like obviously like in shock. I'm like, did this really happen? And alas, she can rescue.
That was a beautiful scene. I think it was beautiful, but the parts that stuck out to me for that specific scene that you're talking about is that she gave every last drop of her magic to save people who tried to kill her. And like the gravity of that is and she's such a like a background character. Like she's such a background character. But both of those are really beautiful. I think because my mind can't go past this, like my favorite I think right now is just like Errol Fane's mom and like her finding like her little like purpose in this new world because like this is all brand new now. Like now we're not enemies. Now we are going for like being partners and prospering and like trying to bring everybody who felt like they were different, back home. And like, but I just love that she had this like renewed purpose where she got to use the things that she hadn't gotten to exercise for a little while.
Yeah.
People that really needed it,
Another one that I really liked was like when Aerofane finally came up to the Citadel and like he called her daughter, but then like when he was dying and she was like the first day I met him, he called me his daughter, and like I felt something, and now I'll never get to experience that again. Like I know that was sad, but like I feel like it was like her finally realizing that the hate that she had thought that she had for this man really wasn't what she thought it was. Like that was really, really nice too. Sad, heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
I know I'm remembering the first series because I loved it, but my mind is blank. Man. I don't know. It's hard for me to like pinpoint because I feel like it's been so long since we read the previous series. Oh, I know it. It is the part where, oh my gosh. What's her name? Oh my goodness. The words are not working. But when that one character took over the wolf's identity. That was
Thiago? You're talking about the one he took over Thiago's identity?
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Names are eluding me. But I mean, even just Susanna and Mick, like I just love them freaking just living amongst the Chimera.
Yeah.
No big deal.
And connecting in a way that like one of their own couldn't connect. Like
I just love them.
Or even names also can't remember them.
I know.
But Karu. Hold on, what's the other guy's name?
Akiva,
thank you. Akiva's sister, when she realized that the wolf guy had passed away, and she put his like soul in a canteen, and she was singing. Yeah, that was powerful.
wow. I'll cry right now. I love that one. Oh. And that was another one where it's like those side characters really came out to play in the last book, where it was like, okay, because the sister, obsessed.
Yeah, just like that character. I felt like in much like the first series, Daughter Smoke and Bone, like her side characters had the most growth as like individuals.
Yeah.
Where the main characters kind of started off strong and just kind of like stayed at the same level. Kind of like how we feel about Laszlo and Sarai. Wow.
Yeah. No, that's very true. It's like, and then it makes me wonder, like, was it intentional? Like, does she intentionally do that?
Yeah, could be. Just making sure like those characters, they have their story to tell and just giving them that time to shine, I guess.
Yeah.
We need to book with the sister and the friend guy. I know. The way we can't remember names, but we know exactly who you mean.
Yeah, 100% read that.
I did. Okay. What did you think about the nods that were in here to Daughter Smoke and Bone? Like there was definitely some sprinkling in.
Yeah. I loved that last one about being like, maybe there is somebody out there that can get bodies for souls. And he was like, I don't know, maybe sounds kind of crazy, but who knows? Just knowing like what's in her universe as a whole. I was just like, go find them. Go find Karu.
And it would be like not as important of like a little like nod if we didn't know that the worlds were already connected.
Yeah.
You know, like knowing that the worlds are connected and knowing that is really a possibility, like it kind of like breaks my heart because we'll never get to see that come to fruition, you know?
Oh, I know. There was a moment.
Oh, sorry.
It was just like a funny moment that just popped into my head where the crew that was with Laszlo coming to the city. I don't remember. There's like Dion, whatever. But like that group of people were like talking about some crazy stuff. And then one of the characters was like, well, this is Weep, you know? Crazy things happen here or something like that. I was like,
okay. Sorry, go ahead. I'm so sorry. You made me think.
I was like, that was so funny because it's like true. They're like, what? Why wouldn't you believe something crazy could happen when we've seen what we have, you know?
Take 2 steps out of Weep. All is normal. But okay, talking about the side, like the people that you said he traveled with, name not there, but the guy that stole his books in the beginning of the Dreamer, yes, and like how he was just like at the end when he was like, oh yeah, it's okay because like you know we were friends, and Diane was just like like you know like I was not being friendly to you, and Laszlo was just like, but that's how basically like that's how we can tell it to people because like how about we just be friends like, and I was just like Laszlo, you're too good for this world.
He really is a pure soul. Like I do enjoy him as a character.
Yeah.
Well. Oh, hello. Oh my gosh, this is my first time apparently. Sorry, I'm just clicking buttons and things keep disappearing. I'm like, hello. Okay, well, I wanted to talk about along this whole Laini Taylor journey. What was your favorite book to read? I know. I feel like Lindsay might have answered it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just, I feel like one standout for me, so I want to, I think I can probably pick your guys' too, but
Ooh, pick it. Pick it.
Me?
Yeah, you said you can pick it. Pick it.
Okay, well, mine and Dana's are the same. Well, did you give it 5 stars?
I did.
Yeah, okay, so we all have like one book that we rated 5 stars throughout this whole
Yeah.
series. And that is, I was trying to find it. I couldn't find it earlier, but Night of Cake and Puppets.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's mine.
It's funny though, because that is the highest rated book, right? Like from all of the books we've read. But as far as like when you think of like the main books, like obviously it doesn't tell as much story, like, you know, and like, but it was like such a beautiful book and just like allowed you just to be giddy and like young and just like be in love, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Like with all the main like chaos happening, like that kind of brought levity to the chaos, really.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that she wrote that after the series ended. So I'm glad we read it kind of where it was meant to be read in the series. I thought that was we said book 2 from the first series, according to my ratings, which was Blood and Starlight, Days of Blood and Starlight.
Mm-hmm.
Or Night and Cake and Puppets.
Yeah.
Mm.
It might have been, Liz, was it Cake and
Confirm,
Puppets or Days of Blood and Starlight? Very curious to hear your answer. Yeah, I'm glad we embarked on this journey together.
Yes.
Because it kind of allowed us to pick up an author that we've had our eyes on for so long, you know. And yeah, thank you guys for coming along with us. If you're here, thank you to Dana, Kehlani, and Lindsay for, you know, embarking on this journey. I know I wasn't like the sole creator, but it's just been a good time. Like it really pushed us kind of outside of our comfort zone and try something new and find some things that maybe we didn't know we liked or things to steer clear from, you know? Okay, so Blood and Starlight. I think that's when my moment happened, I think, in book 2. With the switcheroo.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Good pick, Liz.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any last thoughts? Anything you want to share that we haven't talked about? Anything at all?
Just happy that we were all able to do this together. I think like we were saying in the beginning, just like time passes so quickly and that like this was a half a year of our lives that we got to spend together going through you know, Laini's stories, and you know, it's fun to do things like this together and just like bring in the community element to it, because I have had her books for so long that I just never got myself to pick them up, and I just don't think I would have done it without having friends to like do that with. So I think it's just one of those great memories to say, like, even if there were struggles throughout, you know, because like there are definitely like grievances that I remember with that last book in the first series. Like, you know, it's just like, I think it was just so fun though to read them and then talk about them and hear other perspectives. Like, I think that's the best part about live shows is like hearing other things. But I'm just thankful that we all got to do this together.
It was so fun. Yeah, I mean, I can't really say much more than what the wonderful ladies said already, but I'm just grateful that everyone was here. I'm grateful I got to do it with you guys, and it's such an accomplishing feeling to be able to say I read an entire author's backlist, and to be able to do it with you guys is like just even more fun. And I do agree, like these books were fun to read, but I think our discussions have been even more fun. Like being able to just like delve in and like gush over the things that we love and like really harp on the things that we didn't. And I just had so much fun with these discussions. I had the best time. So thank you to everyone that joined, and thank you to the wonderful ladies for having me as a part of it, because I had a blast.
Well said. I second that. Sorry I was a little MIA, but for everyone who doesn't know, my furnace is officially on. So, hey, my furnace wouldn't turn on today for some reason, so that's why I apologize, guys. But it's fixed and we're good. Even though I did not finish the last book, similar to what you guys were saying, that these books have just been on my shelves for so long. And I think you guys gave me the catalyst to pick them up. And I would never have read them, or at least would have taken a long time to read them if it hadn't been for reading with a group of people that I could like discuss and get clarification from and ask questions to. And honestly, like even the timeline helped me to really narrow in on her writing, and pick up a book every single month was great. And that's why I really do hope we could plan another read along, because it was really, really fun. And I'm so appreciative that you guys invited me, all three of you, to be a part of this, because it was my first read along and it was so exciting. And I'm so grateful that you guys invited me on, and everyone who participated asked questions. And I missed part of the discussion, so I just also wanted to add the Lindsay take that I'm very grateful that there did not appear to be any saliva talk.
No saliva.
Right.
A lip got brought up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited for it. I'm so happy to hear it. Better writing progressed past spit takes.
I will say the line that you like really didn't like got brought up again, and I immediately thought of you. It was like, you ruined my tongue for every other taste, and I was like, oh, Lindsay's gonna hate this.
Instant gag.
I love it. I'm going to second time around again.
So, yeah,
I read it out loud to my husband, and I was like, babe, listen to me. Listen. I was like, pause the TV immediately, because I have something really hot to tell you. And he was like,
just imagine though, that line would eat in a dark romance.
Yeah.
Maybe I could get on it, but I literally looked at my husband. I was like, hey, babe, your tongue has ruined every other taste. And he looked at me and he was like, what? Like,
In the
no.
context of a regular conversation, maybe not. You know?
No.
Yeah, the
Sorry,
context.
I was told that was hot. And this book. He's like, no.
Oh
Did
my
not
God.
help my game at all. But I'm glad. So sorry. Just that I had to go out on the spit take.
No. Love it. Okay. Well, again, big thank you to everybody on screen and everyone that's been along this Laini Taylor journey with us. We had so much fun, and maybe you'll see us again soon with another read along.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking caps are on. All right, guys. We'll see you very soon.
Bye.
Bye.